Overeating occasionally isn't the biggest problem. Enter some scenario. Maybe you're out and about with friends and have ordered a big meal. Maybe you ordered whatever it was, but it's a lot larger than you thought. Maybe you didn't know you were going to go get ice cream afterwards. Maybe it was some unplanned meal that popped up. Your grandma baked cookies. How are you going to say no to her? Whatever the situation is, you've overeaten. When this happens, people will tend to have corresponding feelings afterwards. They feel like they've stuffed up everything. They feel like the week is ruined. They feel like, okay, now we're going to start Monday because I'm already off. Hell, some people feel like they've got to compensate and cut back calories correspondingly the next day or even later that night. Can work, can not, and we'll get to it in a second. After this happens, the meal doesn't stop. There's the feelings afterwards. There's a feeling of shame, there's a feeling of guilt, like I've let my progress down, and sometimes a need to overreact. A sense of panic can come in that can make the decisions of next week or even the next day go way worse than they should do. So what to do when these situations happen? Rule 1, don't panic. Believe it or not, just having like a smooth approach to the whole thing and not overreacting very quickly can be the number one thing to make sure you're not about to make future decisions that's going to make everything worse. I see so many people start to make these ADHD style decisions that they haven't really given thought. They're being really reactive to that feeling of guilt and shame we just discussed, and they're going to do some approach that's going to lead them to failure for the next week. They're going to do something that's unsustainable, doesn't match them, just overall is being made from a decision of stress as opposed to anything that actually lines up with their psychology and schedules and just all things of life we might know if we weren't in that panicked phase. So with that guilt, let's just put something into perspective. That 1 kilogram of body fat or mass gained is about 7,000 calories over your maintenance. Keep in mind, if you are consuming more calories, you'll have something called the thermic effect of food. That is the amount of calories your body burns just to break down the fuel you got. So even if you have an extra 7,000 calories on top of your regular maintenance, it's probably not all going to surplus. Some of that's going to be used in the process of breaking down the food. So suddenly you can start to see, wow, that's actually pretty far away from gaining a kilo of fat. Things aren't ruined, and this is where we need to not be reactive to things such as water weight and things like that. Once we know those numbers, suddenly it puts things into perspective. And you can also start to see why the whole weight loss game, if that is your goal, even weight gain game, is a long-term game. 7,000 calorie surpluses don't happen overnight. And if your maintenance was 2,500, that would mean 9,500 for getting the thermic effect of food, which probably drags it to well over 10,000 calories. You probably didn't do that. And if you did do that, it'd be because of some overreaction to having something slightly off. A effort style approach where screw it, had pizza, I'm already off, may as well go Dunkin' Donuts and go hardcore from there. So with understanding it's a long-term game, we need to just change the framework. Suddenly we realize we're not going to lose that 1 kilogram of fat or those minus 7,000 calories in a single day, but we're also not going to gain it there either. We need to broaden our time horizon to how can we win the week? How can we win the month? Even every couple months kind of thing. When you do that, you start to have more of a long-term oriented sense of thinking. So suddenly the reaction wouldn't be so aggressively, oh my God, I've got shame and guilt. Let's now overreact and try and compensate aggressively now. It might be more of an approach of learning from lessons for why you couldn't adhere to what you had, what to do in these unplanned scenarios when they pop up, how to navigate things of stress, how to calorie bank, how to meal prep, whatever it is. But you're going to have more of an orientation towards how can you actually make these things work in the future and not overreacting in panic, trying to get that 7,000 calorie deficit the next day. It's not going to happen. And if you understand the physiology of it, you can match your personality, your training habits, your food habits towards your overall long-term goals, which is what you actually really care of, I'm sure. So what to do instead? Firstly, again, like we said, breathe, but then just get back to the usual routine. Even if it's something more, so be it. Learning lessons for the future. Honestly, learning how to navigate dieting real world situations around you is going to be way more valuable across the lifetime of your fitness goals than even starving is for a day and not learning those lessons. What you can then do in future is understand if you're going to be out and about with these surprise meals is potentially allowing for more calories within your day, within your week, even sometimes in a bi-weekly schedule I do with clients, to make sure you've got room for these things, we don't need to panic. Again, you tend to have room for everything if you pre-plan. You can do things such as flexible dieting. So if you had a high calorie lunch, you can back off dinner with having a savable meal. It might be something very vegetable and protein heavy, not as dense in calories, but keeps you satiated the rest of the night, just limits whatever quote unquote damage control you feel. But again, that should be done in I'm going to solve the day a bit more, get things a little bit closer towards where maintenance would have been, but keep things being not having a reactive, got to starve, and then setting yourself up for the next binge. This is just a thing to just mitigate things and just back on a regular routine. And that kind of calm overall framework towards this is going to have you feel a lot more in control. Look, I've been there and I've got empathy for this position. It's not fun to be in that whole guilt shame cycle or constantly reactive and stressed. I've coached a lot of large scale weight transformations, but even smaller ones. This can be the thing that ends up being a limiting factor for people, even in something that seems manageable. The thing is, the meal isn't the issue, the spiraling really is. They're not learning a lesson. So instead, next time, what I like to do with clients and what I recommend you do is learn, was there a trigger that made you go for food? Was it stress? Was it the convenience of just driving through somewhere? Was it the panic of not thinking through? Was it not having a default meal? Was it not having even a planned meal in terms of meal prep thing that you could have had in the fridge? It could be a range of different things, but that is honestly the biggest first thing to do. So what we need to do again is breathe, understand that happens, but identify if there was any trigger that is necessary for the future, because these things will pop up again. Were you so hungry that you had a decision fatigue hungry moment? Were you overwhelmed with all the different choices? Did you have something pre-planned? Did you have a default backup meal when you're out and about? Did you not allow yourself enough calories to navigate a situation on a menu where there was too many options and only a few of them could work and none of them were the ones you liked? Was there a certain pre-planning you could have done for that same menu? Was it a situation of you needed to breathe just for a little bit because you were stressed and wanted to have some kind of thing to get you away from the stress? Was it something else? We can find out what it is. But the key is figuring out that stuff, putting it into the monthly framework of can we win the month so you can learn from these lessons and be moving away from the whole guilt shame cycle and actually towards what gives results and carries so much less stress and mental energy with it. It's really doable. You just need to address those things.